backward to punt it away. Harper's under it. He fields at the 45. He fumbles. The ball is loose, and Denver got it. Fair catch the football. With Brady with the play fake. Throws down the right seam for Gronkowski. Can't make the grab with a throw behind him. He was hit, and he's injured, Joe. Gronkowski is hit from behind by Darian Stewart, and Gronkowski is slow, and he's going to stay down on the turf, and he's writhing in pain.
I mean, are you kidding me?
CJ's on the loose. CJ with one to beat. Down the sideline. CJ Anderson to the house. Denver wins it. 48-yard scamper in overtime. It is over. The Broncos in overtime have beaten the Patriots 30-24.
Craziness. Hey, hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Another manic Monday in the NFL and the NBA. Thanks for starting your week with us here on First Take. Skip Bayless and Molly Karam here in Bristol. Stephen A. joins us from Philly. Morning, guys.
Good morning. How y'all doing? Hope y'all had a nice weekend.
We did, and I cannot wait to hear your comments on one Kobe Bryant. I know that's why you're in Philly, because this will be his last hurrah back in his home area tomorrow night against the Sixers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But we got some football to talk.
Yes, we do.
Oh, we do. We've got a lot to talk about. Let's work. What a game last night in Mile High in the snow. The Patriots suffered 2 losses. Brock Osweiler and the Broncos snapping the Pats' perfect season with an OT win, and Rob Gronkowski leaves with a knee injury. The good news, though, for Patriots fans, according to our Adam Schefter, the injury does not appear serious. Quite a game, Skip.
Yes.
What was your takeaway?
Molly, Stephen A. Smith. First, credit where it's due. C.J. Anderson was terrific and proved to have the best all-wheel drive in the snow last night, as he was virtually unstoppable. And then young Brock Osweiler made 3 late beyond his years throws. I give him credit because he was under a whole lot of pressure trying to replace Peyton Manning. But, and here's my bottom line, my final score of that game was refs 30, Tom Brady 24. Refs 30, Tom Brady 24. And we'll hear some comments from Tom Brady a little later in the show, and I'm going to quote him. He said he's never been more pissed off about a loss, and I have to believe some of that was caused by this officiating crew. And after a while, Mr. Smith, it began to feel to me in the fourth quarter and overtime as if this crew of referees was trying to get even with Tom Brady for beating the NFL in court over Deflategate. That's just how it felt. That's just my 2 cents from a distance. But I'll be the first to admit, Chris Harper's blunder opened the door, gave Denver life early in the fourth quarter. He's back catching a punt and muffed it because there's no Edelman and no Amendola. But now let me count the ways that the New England Patriots got robbed from their forward. Brady soon hit Keyshawn Martin. Somebody named Keyshawn Martin is playing receiver for the Patriots for 51 yards. And they call an extremely iffy holding call on the backup guard, Trey Jackson, on Von Miller. And Brady was furious about it because it was ticky-tack at best. Then 5:22 left. New England up 21-17. Pat's trying to kill the clock. It gets to 3rd and 5 at the 25. Brady right on schedule to Gronkowski for 10 yards. And they call a bogus offensive pass interference, a push-off on Gronkowski, who was simply, the defender initiated the contact on the play, and Gronkowski just bounced off him. He didn't push off him. And worst of all, with 1:25 remaining, Denver, 2nd and goal from the 7. Osweiler gets sacked, -8 yards. But they call a way off the ball hold on Patrick Chung in the end zone on Demaryius Thomas when he merely initiated legal contact. He did not grab jersey. You can't call that a hold. It's ticky-tack at best or at worst. And it changed the game. That all of a sudden you go from 3rd and goal from the 15 for Denver to 1st and goal from the 4-yard line, touchdown. And basically that turned the whole game. Then there was some late clock snafu where they let 30 seconds run off from 40 down to 10 seconds. The NFL sent an official note up to NBC in the booth saying, oh, they handled it correctly. I still don't know how they handled it correctly. I'm sorry, I can't figure it out because all of a sudden 40 seconds went down to 10, and they still couldn't stop Tom Brady from one of the late, great, clutch field goal drives you will ever see, which took us to overtime. And on the first play of overtime, right on schedule, Talib grabs Brandon LaFell, just flat out held him. Brady's doing the holding signal to the referees, and they don't throw the flag. At least it would have given them a first down. Again, they went 3 and out at that point. And all credit to Denver, but I'm calling it, congratulations, refs. New England is now 10-1. Your thoughts?
I think you're being a bit. I think you're being a bit extreme, but not false. Let me explain. I think that you're right, particularly the last two, because I charted it down. The 5-22, the 3rd and 5, the push off on Gronk, I thought was bogus. The holding penalty by Chung with 1:25 left, I thought that was bogus. You're absolutely right about that, Skip Bayless. There's no disputing it. There's no doubt about it. But I don't think it's about the officiating. I think it's about the league office and the ticky-tack manner in which they're now forcing the officials to officiate the game, which is something the great Ray Lewis has complained about repeatedly. He talks about all the time. Skip Bayless, he comes on my radio show every Monday at 2:30. And I'm telling you right now, you can't bring up one single situation involving a penalty against a defensive player that doesn't get Ray Lewis up in a tizzy going off about how the rules changes have contaminated the game of football and made it worse, because he basically challenges why anybody on a collegiate or even the prep level should be even interested in playing defense with the way that the NFL has instituted the new rules and regulations. So complaining about the officials in yesterday's situation, I wouldn't say to you, Skip, that they weren't penalties. I think they were penalties, but it's penalties based on what the officials are being forced to call by the NFL league office, as opposed to the officials just making bogus calls. Listening to Chris Collinsworth last night, particularly on that one with 1:25 left, one of the things he said is, yeah, it's ticky-tack or whatever, but those are the rules, you know, and that's what you have going on here. And so I think when you look at it from that perspective, your ire is misguided. It's aimed in the direction of these officials, as opposed to being aimed in the direction of the NFL league office, because they're the ones that have instituted these rules. Having said all of that, it doesn't negate the fact that Brock Osweiler looked good, that C.J. Anderson looked good, that Ronnie Hillman had a touchdown run, that Emmanuel Sanders had a couple of big-time plays, including a 39-yard catch en route to setting up that touchdown. The fact of the matter is that the Denver Broncos showed up and did what they needed to do with Brock Osweiler as their quarterback, as opposed to Peyton Manning. It wasn't great. There were mistakes on both sides of the ball. But in the end, what it comes down to is that, as far as I'm concerned, Skip, it's a typical game. In every game, we find situations where we're looking at calls these days and we feel something is bogus. It didn't stop the New England Patriots from winning their first 10 games. It just stopped them from winning the 11th. So be it. It is what it is. And that's what happened. I picked Denver to win this game. I'm happy that they won the game and that we don't have to discuss the Patriots running the table anymore, because that's not the situation. But again, I do agree with you. You're not wrong with what you pointed out. I thought all those calls were bogus. I just believe that you're aiming your ire at the officials when I think it's in large part due to the league office. They're the ones who have messed up this game. They got guys forcing guys to go low and take out people's knees so we can avoid fines and all of this other stuff. I mean, you know, because they're concerned about the whole concussion issue, you know, and all of that. That's what's going on here. And they've changed the focus for defenders, and they've changed the complexion of football and what we know it to be. I think the officials are at the mercy of their employers, and that's what's going on here.
At first, I was about to leap upon your statement and agree with you, because I thought you were going in the direction of the league office should be blamed because they ordered this officiating crew to look a little harder at New England, especially in crunch time. But you just went big picture about, oh, they're just calling everything a little closer this year. I'm sorry, but I watch too much football. I don't remember one game this year that had that many calls go against a team that was hanging on for dear life, especially after it lost Gronkowski and the air and sort of the spirit went out of the Patriots and they were just clinging. You know, remember, they went into the fourth quarter with a 21-7 lead. And I don't think you predicted that Dante Hightower would go out for New England, but quick stat. Nope. Once he went out for New England, when he was playing, Dante Hightower, their best run stopper because he can run from sideline to sideline. Denver, to that point, had 15 rushes for only 43 yards. After he was gone, 17 for 136 yards. So all of a sudden, without Jamie Collins, who still is out with some mysterious illness, and without Hightower, listen, New England's not New England anymore without those two, because they can run, they can hit, they can make plays, and all of a sudden your two best defensive playmakers are gone. That's fine, okay? They were just clinging for dear life. But when Gronkowski went out, I thought that the Patriots would just fold up in spirit, and I got to give props. I know you think I overprotect Tom Brady on the show, but listen, that field goal drive, throwing to Scott Chandler and Brandon LaFell, it's like, this is beyond great. This is really sensational stuff, and it's going to get lost in the shuffle because, to your credit, you did pick Denver to win this game, and they did. By hook or crook, they won this game, and they are right back in contention for home field advantage in the AFC. Now, with just 2 losses to New England's 1, obviously Cincinnati has 2 losses.
Well, you're right about all of that. And listen, I mean, we could play around and all this stuff. But, you know, who didn't know that Tom Brady was going to put them in position to get that game-time field goal, to send it into overtime? I'm watching the game last night, Skip, and I remember when the pass was completed to Emmanuel Sanders, and I'm like, what the hell y'all running down the field for?
Yep.
There's too much time on the clock. You better milk that down so when you score, Tom Brady doesn't get in a position to drive them downfield, because he most certainly would do it because he's just the best right now. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, ain't no debating about that, okay? But with that being said, let's also understand something here, Skip. I'm looking at a guy in Brock Osweiler, you know, in his second start, going out there, even once Chung got called for the holding penalty or whatever. You still had to connect to Bubba Caldwell. You still found yourself in a pressurized situation against an experienced New England defense with Bill Belichick as its architect. All of those things still had to ring true. And so not only that, there was a holding penalty on the part of Denver that pushed their goal line back. You understand? I think it was like a 3rd and 17, if I remember correctly, something along those lines. My point to you is that Osweiler still made that throw. He still connected. He still ended up completing 23 or 42 passes for 270 yards. He still shows that in that weather, under those inclement conditions, that he's got an arm on him, an arm that we've all challenged and speculated that Peyton Manning is devoid of at this point in time in his career. So when we look at it from that perspective, I'm not taking away anything that you're saying in all seriousness, because I know you're right. You're right about the holding penalty. You're right about it, you know, the Gronk push-off, the holding penalty by Patrick Chung, and all of that other stuff. But I can't take away what I saw Denver do with Osweiler, and I can't take away from the fact that you could say, in terms of quantity, that you might not have seen that before in terms of those amount of penalties in that situation. But there have been 1 or 2 calls in the game this year with quite a few teams that could have went the other way, that had us all shaking our heads, looking at the officials saying, what the hell are they doing? And in some way, shape, or form, we thought it impacted the outcome. I'll leave it at that because my voice is still messed up and all that stuff. You know that. But
you sound great to me. You were celebrating too much on your Denver pick last night, right? Okay, last quick point.
I celebrate.
I opened my first salvo by saying this, and I'm going to repeat it. The kid Osweiler showed me a lot last night. He showed me guts and poise late in that game, and he showed me why John Elway clearly is pushing for Brock Osweiler to be the new quarterback as they go forward into the future of the Denver Broncos. And it seems like it's coming more from Elway than even from Kubiak, but I get it now. That showed me a lot because he could have come undone under the late pressure. He did not.
Good point. And no one embodies next man up like New England. The Broncos now 9-2 in good position to get a bye. An update in the schedule. The Pats Week 14 game against Houston, who's 6-5, will be moved into prime time on Sunday Night Football. The game originally slated was Seattle and Baltimore.